Hey everyone, good morning and welcome to LakePoint Junior High. My name is Pastor Ethan and I'm really excited to be hanging out with you this morning. I hope you've been enjoying your summer so far. I bet that no one in your house is missing online school. Maybe this summer your family is still planning to get away for a week or a weekend, maybe head to the cottage or visit family. But whatever your family has planned, I hope it's a relaxing summer off. What I love about church online is that no matter where you go this summer, all of us here at LakePoint, we get to come with you. You no longer have to miss church or miss junior high when you go on vacation or if you're away for the weekend. And you can still have a great conversation around each week's discussion questions. Last summer, you missed out when you were away, but now you don't have to. Unless, of course, you're that family who stays in a tent someplace in Northern Ontario that no one's really heard of and there's no cell service. Okay. Before we dive in, I just want to thank all of our families with parents participating this morning. In fact, if you're watching today with a parent, take a photo together. Make sure you can see this screen in the photo. I'll even pause for a couple seconds and pose. But take a photo of you participating together, post it on our junior high Facebook group, or even email it to me, and I'll send you a Tim Hortons gift card so that next week you have some fresh Timbits to snack on during the discussion time. So, pull out your smartphone, find the camera, I'm gonna strike a pose, and then pause this video, take the photo, and post it to our junior high Facebook group. Honestly, it's the easiest way to get delicious food without having to make it yourself. Okay, I'm gonna pose the video, and take a photo with me. Okay, now that you've taken the photo and you've posted it to our LakePoint Junior High Facebook group, it's time to buckle up because we're about to dive into our interactive experience in 3, 2, 1. Today, we're in our last week of a series called Popular. It's a series that's all about influence. And so, last week we had a great discussion about how big things start with small steps. This week we're going to talk about how Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. And that's great news for you and I because we all have the potential to influence people, but we also have the potential to lose that influence. Maybe we or someone we know, maybe we had influence, but we lost it because of a poor decision. The truth is, the more we make poor decisions, the more likely we'll be known as someone who does just that, and the more likely we'll lose our positive influence. But there's hope for those of us who have lost our influence. There's a way to find influence even when you think it's gone forever. And speaking of finding things, this week in our weekly competition, you're going to have to find a list of items in your house. So get ready to run around in search of weird things because it's competition time. Every week, we have a friendly competition, and this week's challenge, I'm going to give you a list of items to find around the house. Once you've found the items, place them on the floor in order of how they're listed, take a photo, and then post it on our LakePoint Junior High Facebook group. The person who finds the most amount of items on that list will be our proud winner of a gift card. If we have multiple people who find everything on the list, we will have a fight to the death competition for first place. I'm kidding, although some of you weirdly got excited about that, which really concerns me and should concern you too. Anyway, in the event of multiple people completing the list, we will put those names in a draw and I'll pull a name for our gift card winner. So I'm going to put the list up on the screen. Pause this video and go find as many items as you can. We're gonna start in 3, 2, 1, and go! All right, now that you are worn out from trying to find all those things on the list, get comfy on the couch and focus your attention to our final week of our series called Popular.
Hey Siri, where's the nearest Chick-fil-A? She never works. Anyway, hey guys, my name is Lauren and I am so excited to be here with you today. But before we get started, I have a story that I want to share with you. It's an embarrassing story from middle school, and it happened in PE class, where every good, embarrassing middle school story takes place. You see, we were playing soccer in PE one day, and I am not athletic at all. I was actually the last to be picked for a team, so while we're playing soccer, I'm just kind of jogging back and forth, trying to look busy, but also staying far away from the action of the game. When all of a sudden, I'm in my own little world, just jogging up and down the field, and I look up and I see this shadow coming towards my face. And I'm thinking, gosh, I hope that's a bird. But immediately I realize it's not. It's the soccer ball heading straight for my face, and it makes contact with this side of my face, hits me so hard that I spin and fall to the ground. In that moment, I had a decision. I could either lay down and cry, which is what I wanted to do, or I could pop back up, pretend I'm chill and groovy and that didn't hurt at all and everyone can laugh and we can just have a good moment. And I went with the second option. So I popped back up, I'm like, that was hilarious, guys. On the inside, I'm sobbing, but all my friends are laughing, it's hilarious, we're all having a fun moment together. And later on, I spend a lot of time putting makeup on a bruise on the side of my face. I think we can all agree that sometimes embarrassing moments can be really funny from the outside. Like when someone falls down in public or says the wrong word during a speech or trips in front of a room full of people or gets hit in the face with a soccer ball. We just can't help it. Something about that stuff can just be so funny. Well, that is unless it's happening to us, right? If someone else is known as the kid who fell down the stairs in front of school, it's funny. But when we're the one falling down the stairs, not so funny. You see, after I got hit in the face with a soccer ball in PE class, it kind of followed me everywhere. It kind of became what I was known for, which was a bummer because I have a lot to offer. But everyone was just talking about that one time I got hit in the face with a soccer ball. Lauren, remember that one time you got hit in the face with a soccer ball? Yes, I do, Shannon. I do remember that, and it's not funny, but I guess we'll pretend it's funny. Oh my gosh, it was like so funny. Listen, it followed me for years. But I guess if you were watching, it probably was kind of funny. Isn't it funny the way that works? You do one thing one time in your life, and suddenly that becomes the thing you're known for at school, on your team, at church, just about everywhere you go. It shapes people's opinions of you. In a way, our ability to influence other people works the same. Remember, influence is the ability to have an effect on someone else, to impact things like their behavior, or thoughts, or choices. While we have a tendency to believe that something like influence is reserved for the people who are known, or popular, or kind of a big deal, the reality is we all have the potential to influence other people, for better or for worse. Because of that, we all have the same potential to lose that influence. Maybe you know someone right now who used to have a lot of influence. They were known for being friendly and funny and a person who tried to make good choices, but then they got caught drinking at that party, or cheating on that test, or spreading that nasty rumor about a friend. Just like that, their influence was gone. Now, instead of being known for all the good things they've done, they're simply known for the one big bad decision they made. Maybe you know this is true because it's happened to you. You were the kid who showed up every week to church, who always got straight A's, who had lots of friends, or who was a leader on your team. But one bad decision, one moment, one choice, one experience, and suddenly your reputation changed. Now people look at you and only see that bad decision, and because of that, you feel like you can't show up at church, or at school, or on the team, or even with your friends. But here's the deal. Those big decisions, those things we do that are open and obviously not good choices, they definitely have the power to cost us our influence. But you know what else does? The small, more secret things we do that don't seem like that big of a deal at the time. The harsh way you speak to your siblings, the way you yell at your teammates in the locker room, the secrets you share about your friends when they aren't around, the guy you're dating who you know isn't good for you, the way you look down on or judge the people in your small group, all those little things can add up over time. The more you do them, the more likely you are to become known as someone who does them. And the more likely you are to lose the influence you have over the people around you. When we put it this way, it sounds like a real bummer, doesn't it? You make bad choices, big or small, and just like that, your influence is gone. Your ability to be anyone other than a person who makes bad choices is over. You're stuck, and you'll never be able to get things back the way they used to be. Well, here's the good news. All that may feel like it's true, but trust me when I tell you that it isn't. No matter who you are, what you've done, or how you feel like it's impacted the way people see you and your ability to influence others, there is a way for things to be different. There is a way to find the influence you think is lost forever. I know this is true because I've seen it happen. In my own life, sure, but also in the life of one of the most important people in the history of the Christian faith, a guy named Peter. Now, Peter was one of Jesus' 12 disciples. The disciples were a group of guys who followed Jesus, learned from him, and lived life closely with him during his ministry on earth. But Peter wasn't just any disciple. He actually was one of the 3 men who had the closest relationship with Jesus. He was one of Jesus' most trusted friends. Peter loved Jesus. And when Jesus left earth after his death and resurrection, Peter became one of the men who carried his message and spread Christianity around the world as a leader in the early church. When Christians talk about Peter now, they talk about all the amazing things he did to grow the church and see more and more people believe in Jesus. They talk about what a big and bold and amazing faith he had. They talk about his influence. But here's what's interesting. Peter wasn't always that guy. Luke, one of Jesus' other disciples, wrote down a story in his account of Jesus' life on earth, the book of the Bible we know as Luke, and shows us a different side of Peter. This amazing leader with so much influence in the church, well, at one point, he did something so bad that he almost lost it all. Where we pick up the story, Jesus had just been arrested and was about to be put on trial for his life. This was the beginning of the end for Jesus, or at least that's what everybody thought. And because they followed Jesus so closely, the disciples were afraid that this was the beginning of the end for them too. If Jesus had just been arrested and had his life on the line, wouldn't the same be true for the people closest to him? As all of this unfolded, Peter followed Jesus to find out where he'd been taken. But because he was afraid for his own life, Peter also hid himself amongst the crowd, trying to blend in so that he wouldn't get noticed as a follower and friend of Jesus. Here's what happened. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, "This man was with him." But he denied it. "Woman, I don't know him," he said. Do you catch what Peter did here? One of the most trusted friends, loyal followers, and closest servants of Jesus just straight up lied about being any of those things. He denied even knowing Jesus at all. This is like your best friend, your BFF, who knows all your secrets, is first on your Snapchat list, and is the #1 person on your group text, completely and totally dropping you in front of everybody. That's terrible, right? I don't know about you, but that's certainly not the way I would think one of the most influential leaders in the Christian faith would act. Shouldn't a guy who's so important in the history of the church be a guy who stood up for what he believed in and used his influence for good no matter what? Let me just stop here and let you know that this story goes from bad to worse. 2 more people came up to Peter in the crowd and asked him if he knew Jesus. And 2 more times, Peter denied knowing him. Right then and there, you'd think the potential for Peter to ever have any influence as a Christian would be lost. I mean, he denied even knowing the guy who all the Christian faith centers on. How could somebody who does that ever gain back the influence they've lost? Well, Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. Did Peter mess up here? Big time. Did he feel awful about it? Yes. Luke went on to tell us that Peter went outside and wept over what he'd done. He knew just how big and bad and costly those lies were, not just to his influence, but also to his relationship with Jesus. But that's the thing about Jesus. He doesn't see our mistakes the same way we do. He knows our sins are forgiven, and when we come to him honestly, he offers us the forgiveness we need to start over. Then, we can begin gaining back the influence we thought was gone for good. That's exactly what he did for his pal Peter. As you probably know, this story didn't seem like it ended all that well the first time. Jesus was killed, and his followers, Peter included, didn't really know what to do next. They were afraid and unsure and so very lost without their leader. But then, 3 days later, Jesus rose back from the dead. He came back to life, which is pretty amazing. And one of the first things he did was find his friends and followers, including Peter. In another account of Jesus' life on earth, the book of John, we find out what Jesus said to Peter when they were reunited. Take a look. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." With his very first question, Jesus was giving Peter a chance to change the story, to right the wrong, to be more than his mistakes, to gain back his influence. And this time around, Peter got it right. 3 times, Jesus asked Peter if he loved him. And 3 times, Peter confirmed his love for Jesus. He said "I love you," for every time he had denied Jesus. And Jesus' response? Well, it wasn't a call to take care of his actual sheep, because that would be weird. It was a command to take care of the people who will follow him. In the same way sheep follow a shepherd as their leader, believers in Jesus follow him. So by asking Peter to feed his lambs, Jesus was asking Peter to take care of his followers. He was asking Peter to tap back into the influence and use it to change the world through the message of Jesus. Jesus saw Peter as so much more than just his mistakes. And the good news is that he sees us in the very same way. No matter what we've done in the past, we have permission to love and follow Jesus right here in the present. Our mistakes and sins have been paid for. We can ask God for the forgiveness Jesus bought for us. And because we're forgiven, we can move forward on a new path step by step, gaining back the influence that we may feel like we've lost. Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. Just like Peter, you can receive grace and forgiveness. How your story has gone before doesn't have to be the way it goes in the future. You can take a step toward Jesus and a step toward regaining some of the influence you feel like you've lost. To start, I want you to do 3 things. First, ask yourself what may be causing you to lose influence. Take a minute to think about the choices you might be making, big or small, that are impacting your ability to influence others for good. Is it the guy you're dating? The things you post on social media? The way you speak to kids in your class? Your attitude on the field? The friends you hung out with last week? The secret behaviors you think nobody knows about? Whatever it is, acknowledge what big or small choices might be chipping away at your influence. Next, confess it to God. Be honest with God about it all. Tell him what you're struggling through and ask for his help to overcome it. Ask for his forgiveness and believe that you've received it. Let that moment be the first step in rewriting the story of your influence. Finally, take the first step in the right direction. Take one small step toward gaining back influence you think might be lost. Maybe that means apologizing to someone you've wronged, or putting up boundaries in a relationship, or changing the way you talk to other people, or asking your small group leader to help you stay on the right path. Take one small step this week in the right direction, and next week, take another. Those small steps over time will lead to bigger and better influence in the long run. Remember, Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. As you head out, think about this. What's one thing in my life that may be causing me to lose influence?
How our story has gone in the past doesn't have to be the way it goes in the future. Why? Because we're forgiven. We can move forward on a new path, step by step, gaining back the influence we feel we may have lost. Maybe you're watching today and there's a highlight reel playing through your mind of all the times you've made a poor decision that resulted in a loss of influence. Or maybe you're thinking about a time when a close friend hurt you and since that moment, things haven't quite been the same because they've lost your trust. You see, Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes or even someone else's mistakes to be the end of the story. Jesus is in the business of giving us and other people a second chance, either at regaining our influence or giving others the chance to earn our trust. So ask yourself, what may be causing you to lose influence? And confess it to God. And then take a step in the right direction. Maybe that step is asking someone for forgiveness. Maybe it's apologizing. Maybe it's doing something nice for your siblings instead of, purposely trying to ruin their day. Whatever it is, I want you to know that Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. So what's one thing in your life that may be causing you to lose influence? Parents, this is where we turn things to you. You're about to see some questions on your screen. Take the time you need to facilitate meaningful conversations with your junior high student with each question. And then, after you complete the discussion questions, come back to this video for some closing remarks. I hope you had some meaningful conversation together through the discussion questions. Remember to post a photo of you and a parent participating together, and of course with me posing on the screen. If you haven't done that yet, just rewind and quickly do that. When you post that photo on our junior high Facebook group, or if you email it to me, you'll be sent a Tim Hortons gift card so that next week you can enjoy a delicious treat together during those discussion questions. Also, make sure you post a photo of all the items you found on the list from our competition. Post that again on our junior high Facebook group for a chance to win a gift card. Just head to Facebook, search LakePoint Junior High, and request to join the group. If you aren't on Facebook, you again can email me your photo to ethan@lakepoint.church, and I'll make sure you get added into the draw. To close our time together today, take the next 2 minutes to pray together as a family, then head to the LakePoint app to access our weekday devotionals that go along with our series. You'll find those in the Family Resources section right on the main page of the app. Have a wonderful week, friends. We'll see you next week.